In the 125-year history of the modern Olympic Games, hundreds of thousands of athletes from all across the world have been able to represent their country at the Olympics. However, among this massive pool of athletes, only 136 people have ever been able to qualify for both the Summer and the Winter Games. And among this group, only 5 people in history have ever been able to medal in both the Summer and the Winter. But in this year's Olympics in Tokyo, a 31-year-old baseball player has the opportunity to become the 6th. This is the story of the most interesting Olympian you've probably never heard of. This is Sports Oddity. This is Eddy "the Jet" Alvarez. You might not know his name and you might not recognize him at first glance, but over the past decade, he has quietly become one of the most accomplished two-sport athletes in American history, and he did so by pursuing the two passions that defined his life from a very young age. As the son of Cuban immigrants growing up in the middle of Miami, baseball was always a prevalent presence in young Eddy's life, and as a result, he very quickly fell in love with the sport, and he became pretty darn good at it too. As a switch-hitting middle infielder with a bunch of speed, Alvarez was always one of the better players on his teams growing up, and as a result, by the time he got to high school, he had multiple scouts on notice. In fact, by the end of his senior year, not only did he have a scholarship offer in hand, but if he decided to go pro and enter the draft, there's a good chance he would have been selected. However, rather than pursue either of those options, Alvarez chose a third path, giving up the game entirely in order to pursue one of his other passions, speed skating. Alvarez received his first pair of inline skates when he was just 5 years old, and from that moment, he became hooked on racing in them. Just like with baseball, Alvarez showed a great talent for the sport at a very, very young age. So much so that by 7 years old, he was already being noticed by scouts and already being encouraged to make his transition from the asphalt to the ice in order to start training for serious competition. From there, he would go on to excel in the youth and junior circuits across America, and by the time he graduated high school, his dream of becoming an Olympian was growing closer and closer to reality every single day. So with that in mind, rather than pursuing baseball or going to college, he decided to go back to focusing on skating full-time. And for a while, it looked like his move was paying off for him. By 2009, Alvarez had become one of the highest-ranked speed skaters in the United States, and after winning a gold medal at the World Junior Championships that year, he seemed almost a shoo-in to make the 2010 Olympic team for the US. But unfortunately for Alvarez, that's when tragedy would start to strike. Shortly before the 2010 US Olympic trials, Alvarez would become very sick with a stomach virus, and in his weakened state, he wouldn't perform up to his expectations, and ultimately, he would end up missing out on the Olympic team that year. And as if that wasn't bad enough, just over a year later, tears would be discovered in the patellar tendons of both of his knees, a devastating injury that would require major surgery, one that left him unable to walk for nearly a month. But yet, despite all of this, Alvarez had a goal that he still needed to achieve, and he was going to work his ass off to make sure he got there. After spending nearly all of 2012 rehabbing his knees and rebuilding the muscles in his legs, Alvarez was able to get back to his previous level of performance. That December, he would make it on to the United States national team and compete in the World Cup. And over the next 2 years, he would work his way to become the third-ranked skater in the United States. And by 2014, with the Sochi Games right around the corner, he was finally ready to show the world what he could do. That year in the Olympic trials, he would finally secure his spot on the US Olympic team by finishing second in the 500 meters, third in the 1,000 meters, and second in the 1,500 meters. And just like that, his dream came true. Eddy Alvarez was finally an Olympian. However, his introduction to the Olympic Games probably could have gone a little bit better. In his individual races, Alvarez faced a ton of problems, falling in both the 500 and 1,000 meter races and getting disqualified in the 1,500 meters. But fortunately for him, he would have one more shot to not leave Sochi empty-handed, the 5,000 meter relay. And this time, he made sure that his opportunity didn't go to waste. After narrowly missing a crash on the very first lap, the Americans would keep neck and neck with the Russians the entire way through the race, and they would ultimately finish second by 0.3 of a second, finally making Alvarez an official Olympic medalist. With his Olympic dream finally complete, Alvarez decided to hang up his skates after 2014, but he was far from done in the athletic arena. Just 6 years earlier, he decided to put down his glove in favor of chasing his Olympic dream. But now that that dream has finally been fulfilled, he decided it was finally time to return to his first love and see if he could make it on the diamond after all these years. And with that, he registered for the 2014 MLB draft. Though he wouldn't be selected in that year's draft, he was able to impress enough to receive a contract from the Chicago White Sox, where he would start steadily working his way up through their minor league system. He would start off in rookie ball in late 2014, move up to A-ball in 2015, spend the next 2 seasons moving between AA and AAA before spending all of 2018 at the AAA level. From there, he would be sent along to the Miami Marlins in 2019, where he would post a .967 OPS across all levels of their minor league system. But of course, Alvarez didn't come all this way to just play in the minor leagues and stall out at the AAA level. And in a weird pandemic season in 2020, with the Marlins having to quarantine most of their active roster, Alvarez would finally get his chance at the big leagues. On August 5th, he became the first Olympian since Jim Thorpe, and the first ever Winter Olympian to become a Major League ball player. And he would go on to play 12 games for the Marlins that season as they dealt with their ongoing outbreak. And though his time in the show was short-lived and due to crazy circumstances, Eddy Alvarez was still a big league ball player, and there was nothing that could take that away from him. But as historic as this was, he still had even more history on his mind, because he knew that in just a year from then, the postponed 2020 Olympics would be taking place in Tokyo, and at those Olympics, baseball would once again be taking stage as an Olympic sport. So after playing just 18 games at the AAA level in 2021, Alvarez opted to leave the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp temporarily to go help Team USA try to qualify for the Olympic Games. And after thoroughly dominating their qualifying tournament with an undefeated run, Team USA would do just that. Meaning that in just over a month from now, Alvarez not only has the opportunity to compete in his second Olympics and become the 137th person in history to be in both the Summer and the Winter Games, but he also has a very good chance of becoming the 6th person in history to ever win a medal in both versions of the Games. Whether or not the USA is able to make the podium this year and Alvarez is able to make history once again, there's no denying that the career of Eddy Alvarez is one that's worthy of celebration. This is a man who grinded like absolute hell to reach the highest levels of not just one, but both of the sports that he loved so much, all the while dealing with major injuries, major setbacks, and terrible minor league conditions along the way. And now, after all of that, he has the opportunity to join one of the most exclusive and prestigious clubs in all of international sports. And frankly, he's more than earned this opportunity. So to Eddy, if you're watching, all I can say is congratulations, Godspeed, and good luck. And just know that all of us are going to be standing behind you, and we're all going to be cheering you on from home next month. Go bring home the gold, kid.